You leave in the morning with everything you want in a little black case. Alone on the platform, the wind and the rain on a sad, lonely face. Oh, mother will never understand why you had to leave. But the answers you seek will never be found at home. Ooh. Now the love that you need will never be found at home. Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away. Run away, turn away, run away, turn away, run away. To your soul, to your soul, crying to your soul, crying to your soul. Cry, boy, cry, cry, boy, cry, cry, boy, cry, yeah. Cry, boy, cry, to your soul, to your soul, to your soul, to your soul, to your soul.
Jack.
Tami.
Samuel.
Alicia.
At what point do you want me to start talking? Everybody likes answering questions about themselves.
I've shared my story a lot. It isn't a decision I've made. I'm an opportunist. I take whatever comes my way.
There was a time when I couldn't even talk to myself about my story.
I'm going to be really honest, though.
Now I'm like, go on, liberate yourself.
I'd like to be heard and understood. What do you want to know? I'll tell you everything.
Is that what you're going to record us on? An iPhone. It's just that I thought your equipment would be a bit more professional.
Obviously, I was born female. It was really early on that I noticed that that wasn't right. I was probably about 4 and completely convinced that there had been a mistake, and that I was going to grow the appropriate body parts and grow up to become a boy, and things would change and everything had become right. And then that didn't happen.
I grew up in Nigeria. I came here when I was 18. At school, I knew I was a bit different. I was attracted to guys. I didn't know the gay word or what homosexual meant. I thought I was the only person attracted to guys.
I identified as a gay boy, but more as a feminine gay boy.
I was 5 when I kissed my best friend at school. The older girls saw, and from then on, I was called names based on that. Words like lesbian and dyke were used as insults. I didn't even know those words.
I actually have a problem with the word homosexual. Where I'm from, it's a negative word. My parents use it to demean someone, to bring them down. So I prefer the word gay.
There were times when I went to school wearing makeup. I used to steal my mum's. I never wore makeup at home. I used to take mascara and eyeliner, and all the kids would laugh at me, but it didn't bother me. I wanted to be the attention seeker. But then that got me into trouble too.
In primary school, there was a girl I liked. But I liked her brother more.
I was 10 or 11 when I said to my mum, the girls at school are calling me lesbian. Does that mean that I am? And my mum said, of course you're not. Don't be ridiculous. You know you like boys.
I'd had a lot of depression and drug use in my teenage years because of stress to do with the way my body was changing. I really couldn't handle it. I ended up doing the tomboy thing because I thought that was the only thing that I could do. And then I got to about 17 or 18 and I thought, well, what am I? I remember the conversation I had with myself. It was really separate, picking it apart, trying to figure out what the fuck I was. I thought, I'm a tomboy who's grown up. And then I thought, what's that? And then I thought, it's a dyke. And then I thought, am I a dyke?
I sort of went from each sexuality trying to find the right one. It started when I was 15 or 14, when I thought I was bisexual, and then at 18, I came out as gay.
I came out as gay when I was 11 years old. I had my first sexual encounter at 12 at school with another pupil 3 or 4 years older than me. It was confusing, but exciting. I'd had a slice of the cake or the forbidden fruit that had fallen from the tree. I picked it up and tasted it.
When I look back now to myself at a young age, I wasn't straight at all. Like, it was pretty obvious, but I just pushed it down.
My parents had an idea of black kids coming here from Nigeria and getting corrupted, westernized and becoming something else. They didn't want us to become bad Western kids. We weren't allowed to have friends because they thought they would corrupt us, tell us things that we shouldn't be hearing, and make us do things that we shouldn't be doing. We had curfews. Once, we got in for trouble for going out without telling them. We got back late, about 8:30 p.m., and we all had to sleep outside in the cold. We weren't allowed back in.
It took me a year to tell my mother. Her reaction wasn't loving. We're at my mum's friend's house, and I was playing upstairs with my mum's friend's kids, and I told them I was gay. They went downstairs and told my mother. I was 13, and she called my name very loudly, my male name, which was Dylan. And I went down, and she said, "Are you gay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gay." She punched me in the face. I cried my eyes out, left the house, ran away, and I didn't come back until a week later.
My dad, who is very homophobic and very small-minded on every topic and would probably vote UKIP if he was inclined to vote, started saying more and more when I was a teenager that if I ever got pregnant, if I ever had a boyfriend from a certain background, or if I ever was lesbian or bisexual, he'd put my head through a wall.
We all got beaten up at different times. Once, my dad sent my sister to get groceries, and she got back late. She said there was traffic, but he said that she'd gone somewhere else, and so he attacked her. I tried to defend her, but he said, "You are my first son. You should always be on my side." And so I got beaten up like my sister. I went to college the next day and told my teacher. The police got involved.
My mum couldn't understand that I was happy being gay. She kept saying, "It's a phase." I said, "I've done this and I've done that. Sexual things with men." She was shocked and couldn't believe it. My mother couldn't handle me. It got to the point where she didn't want me living with her anymore, so she put me into children's homes from the age of 14.
When I came out at 18, nobody believed me because I didn't look how they expected a gay person to look or act how they perceive a gay person will act. I moved out of my mum's. Me and my mum never got along, and I went to live with my stepdad and his parents. I was a pretty big drinker by then. I was drinking every day.
My parents were abusive because of their own problems. My mother kicked me out of the house, and I went and moved in with this girl that I'd only known for 2 weeks. I was living in her attic and having this strange, intense relationship with her that was sexual on her part, but on my part, I found it very difficult to reciprocate. Since I'd identified as a dyke, I thought, okay, we'll go down this road. But then that became very abusive. I left her and moved in with my dad, who has a terrible drinking problem.
I was in 4 different foster homes, each one for a year, one was 2 years. There was one was with my sister, she was put into care as well. We could never be split up, we were very close. And it was very difficult living with people you didn't know, and they're very strict with you. You couldn't do whatever you wanted. You had to abide by their rules.
I'd put my drinking down to having a rocky upbringing as a child and being uncertain about a lot of things, including my sexuality. But instead of talking about these things or even thinking about them, I'd get wasted instead. I'd say I drink because I'm an alcoholic. And when I drink, I can't stop. I've been going to AA for a year. I'm 20 years old, and I'll be 21 in November.
The police and social services started to come into my family, who at that point started to think that something was wrong with me. I wasn't behaving like an African child. And so that is what prompted my sister to take my phone to see who I was talking to. My sister read my text messages and called the number because she thought it was a girl. A guy answered. She asked him if he was gay, and he said, yes. And so she told my parents.
I was addicted to codeine before I started drinking. The codeine was prescribed to my best friend's grandparents, and they got it in these huge boxes that were stacked up, enough to last us months and months. When that ran out, my best friend stopped taking it, and I started taking my grandparents. I got things off my dad. My stepmom was ill, and so she was taking codeine, tramadol, temazepam, diazepam, and so I was away with that.
One of the foster carers was the worst. First time I moved into her house, she accused me of stealing. I've never stolen anything in my life. Well, I did steal things when I was younger. She had another foster child. He was about 21 or 22, and he said, turn the TV on or I'll beat the fuck out of you. That was on my first day there. I was scared for my life. He was very manipulative and nasty to me. We shared a bedroom, and when I'd go to bed, there were times when his girlfriend was there, and he'd say, turn around and face the wall. And I'd hear them having sex.
I started exploring this feeling that I was trans. I went to college with the idea that I would finish and transition, and so I changed my name to Alex in an informal way. I'd come out to my mum, and my brother knew that I'd felt like that all my life, and my best friend from when I was a kid had known. Other people who I told were very, very negative about it and behaved as if though I didn't know what I was doing or what I wanted. I went back in, but stuck with the name Alex, which became a feminine name. People were using it with she.
I was outed. They called a family meeting. I am from a very religious family. There were Bible chapters flying around. I was told they would pray for me and help me. We prayed that night for a very long time, but nothing was changing. There were times at boarding school that I would fast and pray, but I knew nothing would change. And you know how the Catholics have holy water? Well, we have an equivalent, water of life. And apparently the water is very powerful. I would bathe in that water, asking to be washed, to take the homosexual side out of me. God knew how much I wanted to change. He would have changed me if he wanted to. And so I accepted myself in Nigeria for who I was. There is a picture of me in my mom's Bible.
I went away on my 3rd year to Belgium and basically had a breakdown. And when I came back, I was like, things are going to be different now. I was trying to get on, but there was this feeling about having to make a change, and I was having these little breakdowns, and they were getting closer and closer together and more intense, and I just thought, I've got to do this. It was do or die, basically.
The next morning, we woke up early to pray, and there was a conversation about sending me back to Africa. They asked someone on their behalf to do it. Someone who could take me there and do it, cure me. It wouldn't be worth it, going back to Africa, being forced to change, being humiliated.
I went back to university, told everybody what I was doing, and if they didn't like it, they could stick it.
I was drinking every single day. I was taken to A&E and told that if I stopped drinking, I'd be at the risk of having a fit. I went back to my mum's for a fortnight. I stopped drinking cold turkey. I had a fortnight of hallucinations. I tipped my bed to the side so that the bars were coming through like this, and I had the blinds completely closed because things were coming in through the window. I was seeing things around the bed, under the sheets. I was hearing stuff, having conversations with people, and with people I hadn't even seen in years. I was talking as myself. And as a child, I had headaches, nausea, and the dealing with what you'd done when you were drunk. I was constantly tired, but unable to sleep. I had to have all my money, bank cards and ID taken away from me, because as soon as I had them, I'd be out the door to try and buy more alcohol.
One of the foster carers would always check I was clean after a wash, and if she thought I wasn't, she'd take me into the bathroom, hold me down and wash me clean. I was 17 years old at that point.
I remember bits and bobs, and I remember incidents, but it's putting things in the right order that I struggle with. I know that I've forgotten a lot when people recount bits to me later. After the fortnight, the bed was still turned up. And I asked my mother why, and she said, "You did that. I don't know why, but you did that."
When I was outed, my mom cried. The family felt united. They felt they had found the solution to all of the problems we had. They believed I behaved in the way that I did because I was gay. My dad would ask me every 2 weeks if I had changed. I'd get really angry. There were a series of incidents inside the house. They wanted me to change my clothes too, because apparently my wardrobe made me gay as well. Similar things to I am wearing now, skinny jeans. My dad didn't want me to go anywhere. He knew that I was gay, and so he wanted to keep me in, to save me.
There were times when she would starve me. To this day, the way she was towards me mentally fucked me up, screwed me up. If I told my social worker, it would have got back to my foster parent, and I'd be too scared to go back home, back to the house.
For me, when I was in that situation, the only person that could help me was myself, but I didn't want to. My family were desperately trying to help me, but there wasn't a lot they could do because I didn't give a shit. It wasn't pleasant for my family. I have a younger brother who's 13 now. My brother would have been 11, and I remember one time I was drinking in the early hours of the morning, and he saw me go to the bathroom, and I was stumbling and falling against the walls, and it scared him so much that he started to throw up.
The police came to my flat in 2018. They were doing an investigation regarding one of my foster carers being a child molester. They were investigating sexual abuse. They asked me questions like, were you ever sexually touched by any of them you lived with? Were you groped? I said no. I was shocked. I said, can you tell me which one of the foster carers? And they said, sorry, we can't. But it was obviously someone I lived with. I have no idea who it was.
I wasn't working. I had no responsibilities or commitments, but my brother was getting up at 7 in the morning, throwing up and then having to go to school. And that was a lot of the reason why my mum didn't want me in the house, because she knew what was happening to my brother was an effect of my behaviour.
I started working at Marks and Spencer's, and on the first day that I was working there, I came out and said, "I'm transitioning. I want you to introduce me to your staff as he." I was still Alex at the time, which I changed by deed poll to get my hormones, as you need that letter. That name wasn't sitting right with me, though, because it was still associated with a female time. It was a time of confusion. So on my last birthday, I changed it to Jack. I've been taking tea for 2 years now, and I started having surgery in October last year.
I was diagnosed with ADD. I was very disruptive in class. I had to go to a sort of like special school because my behaviour at the time was out of control. I got kicked out of school. I was 16. I didn't do any exams and I don't have any GCSEs.
Once I went to the police about my dad. He knew that he could not abuse us physically, but he was abusing us verbally, which was worse. He was saying a lot that day. I went crazy and told the police I was being abused, but they couldn't do anything about it, as I wasn't being abused physically.
My relationship with my dad was very difficult. He was drinking a ridiculous amount. He always had, but it was particularly bad at this point. He was taking medicine off the internet, just random shit that he'd bought. He was being particularly unpleasant. He said, "You'd have more friends if you weren't such a half-baked bloke." That was hard to take.
My dad worked at night, and so what he'd do was sit on the phone all morning and talk to people on the phone about me. My dad is African. Have you heard Africans on the phone on the bus? I could hear everything about how useless I am. I tried to escape home as much as I could, and just so I didn't have to hear anything.
After the cold turkey for 2 weeks, I went to Sainsbury's and bought more alcohol. I got so drunk, I can't remember what happened, but some strangers found me and called an ambulance, and I was taken to A&E. I have no idea where I was found. That happened quite a lot over that period. After the hospital, I went back to my mum's. I got a taxi, I think, and she were like, "You can't stay here anymore. I don't know what to do about what you're doing." I went back to my nana's. I ended up living there for about 1.5 years, and at first the drinking subsided quite a considerable amount, but then it just crept back up again.
I would look up singers on Wikipedia to see if they were gay-friendly and listen to them. I was a massive Lady Gaga fan, and that hasn't changed. I'd listen to music to block out the voices. I remember her MTV acceptance speech when Lady Gaga said, "Thanks to the gays." And I was just like, whoa! And that just made me want to come out more. But I couldn't do it. I was glad someone did it for me.
I didn't think it was going to fly, like being a gay trans man. Are you taking the piss? I just thought, that's how I feel. I'm attracted to men and I feel male. So if that's what that is, if that's the label for that, then fuck everybody. That's what I've got to do. And that's basically that. It was when I came out as trans that I felt able to come out in that way as well. It just made so much sense. I wasn't going to hide anything anymore.
After the 4 foster homes, I moved into an housing association. I was there for about 5 years. That was okay. I had my own room and I had to share the kitchen. There was an age restriction there, 18 to 23, so I had to move out into my own apartment, but I couldn't handle living on my own. I was in a work programme and you had to be there every day, Monday to Friday, and there were times when I wasn't, when I'd missed appointments. They stopped my job seekers allowance for 6 months. I had no money for 6 months. My housing benefit was stopped. My rent arrears were going up.
The crossover in sexuality was funny, because all that time I was a lesbian, I was collecting pictures of beautiful men, but not actually telling anyone about it.
I met somebody on a night out in Newcastle, Emily, who's now my current partner, and I had a job. I was working in a bar, which made me think I could stay behind after work and have a few drinks, but I can't. I can't have a few drinks. I'd buy a bottle on the way home, calling sick to shifts, not go to college, and I'd steal alcohol from the house again. One night, I was drunk, and my nana came downstairs as I'd woken her up. It was 2 in the morning, and we had a huge argument on the doorstep. And my stepdad was living there as well, and he said, "Oh, don't let her back. She's drinking, she's stealing, you're being too lenient with her, just don't let her back." And that's what happened.
I didn't have any electricity. There was no hot water. I had cold baths. The flat was cold. Didn't have bedding. I didn't have a bed. I had no food.
Everybody knew about the trans thing, they just didn't want to face it. My mother was awful and decided that I'd done it just to upset her. She still calls me Jennifer when she gets excited, or she tells me that I'm a good girl and it's just so far away from where I am. I actually found transitioning really easy. I was suddenly interested in people and doing things and life in general and really excited by everything. I felt really, really happy.
I went between work, staying at friends, staying at Emily's, and drinking the entire time. When I was 17, my stepmom died, and my dad ran away and disappeared for 3 months. I went to the flat he'd abandoned. He'd left the doors unlocked. And I just sort of slept over there quite often too.
I'd get up early and go to college early, even though it started 2 hours later. After college finished, I would stay on buses. I had a free Oyster card at this time, and that just made Dad think he's going God knows where and doing God knows what. I'd take the long trip from Ilford to Oxford Circus on the number 25. I'd get to Soho and not know what to do. I didn't get it. I'd go to Topman and Oxford Circus instead. I had no friends here. Just saying that makes me sound like a saddle.
I'd be drunk at Emily's. Emily lived with her mum, brother and sister, and I got asked not to return. There was a period of time where Emily went on holiday for a weekend and I had nowhere to stay. And so I rang one of the local services and asked for emergency housing. But because I was over 18, I wasn't at risk. And so on those nights, I was told, just stick it out, and if you feel like you're in danger, you go to the police station and they'll turn you out for a few hours.
I had sex with different men for money. I rented myself. It wasn't good. Everyone knew I was a rent boy. It was the only thing I could do. It was the only option. I was fighting for my life, trying to stay alive, surviving.
It wasn't comfortable being at my dad's place. I was going from crisis to crisis, trying to get by. There was no way I could figure out who I was. I was going from up to down. I'd quit drinking. I'd quit taking a lot of drugs. I'd quit smoking. I was trying to get on, but he was drinking and being abusive and unpleasant, and I never knew what he was going to be like.
I abandoned my flat and moved to Manchester. I met some people there who became my very close friends and who are still my very close friends now. I stayed in some hostels, Salvation Army ones. I was there for a year. I spent my Christmas there.
I wanted to be out the house. I decided to leave. Only my sister knew I was leaving. She was the one I came out to in Nigeria. My family knew we were close. We'd gone to gay pride together in London.
The AKT took me in from being at my dad's place, which had become completely unbearable.
I didn't even know about pride. I looked it up. I was very excited. It was so good to go. The whole place was gay, gayed out. Many different organizations supporting different causes. The African ones too. It was amazing. My tutor from college was there with her kid. She is a lesbian. I was wearing a white vest, blue jeans, pink shoes, and a pink belt. I was very, very, very skinny. The pictures of me look horrendous. No wonder I got no numbers. Hey, I've had a Gokwan intervention since. We took pictures in front of their family house and put them on Facebook. Our siblings are on our Facebook, and I knew they would tell our parents. But I didn't care. That's how many fucks I didn't give. I didn't care anymore.
I think in my head, when I started to sober up, that's when I got the full fear of what was going on. When I was drinking, I just thought, I can wander with no shoes on. I can go for days just living off the land. I had this false sense of security that went away when I stopped drinking, which was when I ran out of money. My best friend was volunteering at Bernardo's, and she arranged for me to meet up with a lady at Bernardo's to see what I could do.
I found a leaflet about an LGBT group in East London. I went along and they told me about the AKT. They told me to go to a meeting on a Monday, but this was on the Thursday, and I couldn't wait another 4 days, knowing I was almost getting there. I'm a very impatient person. On the Saturday, I woke up, took my bag, and left.
I went to Manchester to fit the final piece of the puzzle. I felt a sense of security in Manchester because there's a big gay community. I wanted to be accepted and to become a decent individual. I met Carmel at the AKT and she got me in with a carer. His name was Ben Brooks and he was very nice. There were times when we argued about silly things, when I've done something I shouldn't have. He showed me the ropes, how to survive, how to sort myself out, where to go, how to meet people. I was with him for 1.5 years.
I went to a bed and breakfast, 1 bus stop away from my dad's house. That area was all I knew. I thought I'd get a lot of calls that day. Normally they ask where you are, but nobody called me. Saturday, no calls. Sunday, no calls. Monday, no calls. If they'd have called me, I would have answered. I think it took about a week before my dad called me. I did answer. We started arguing. I hung up. That was the last time we spoke.
If I hadn't sought help at that time, I would have killed myself.
I was referred on to services. One responded very quickly and I was called for an interview. I was offered a room. The place was filled with loads of different people, and if I was to say I was gay or have Emily around as my partner, it wouldn't be a very good idea. And the support workers recognised that. So they took me out of the bigger lodging, put me in a smaller one, a 4-bedroom house with other girls. I was there for a week. I locked myself in my bedroom. It was the first time in a long time without any alcohol. And so I had a seizure, collapsed and couldn't move my legs.
I was quite frightened the first night I spent out of the house on my own. The next morning, I went for an interview with a housing company. I was sent to an emergency council house in Ilford. I went shopping and came back, and there was no fridge. I was fucked. I had to put everything in the oven so it wouldn't go off.
I ended up in hospital, and the service were like, "We can't keep you." And so I was told in the hospital bed that afterwards I'd have nowhere to go, and whoever wants to pick up your stuff in plastic bags can do that, or we can just bin them for you. I went back to my mum's. Every time I drank, I would end up in hospital. She were like, "After last time with your brother, if you drink, I've got to say goodbye because I've got to put your brother first."
The AKT helped me find a local flat in the area, which is absolutely lovely, and I'm still there now. Having my own space was amazing. I felt more independent. I became really successful at college after failing all my other courses. I left college that second year with a triple distinction and an unconditional offer to Newcastle University to do fine art. I didn't need any grades to get in.
I made a decision for my brother. He's very intelligent, and he said to me, "It's been really lovely to have you here. Started to feel like you're a real sister again." I had the impending, I want to get myself on my feet. I've got to do this for myself or it's not working. I had a referral to the AKT put through from the housing centre because in the interview I ticked a box, are you gay, lesbian or trans? And for some reason, I wouldn't usually specify, but I just ticked the box. And I often think, thank God for the lesbian box. I pretty much told them exactly what had happened and they were like, you can come for an interview.
I was given money to buy bedding, to buy food. Somehow, I survived.
My first interview was with Mandy in April last year, and I sort of said what all the problems were, and she was like, we know you go to AA, so if you want to tell us when you're going, we can make sure you go if that's what you need. In May, I moved into one of their flats. It was weird having someone offer to help me because it hadn't happened like that before. There was financial help if I wanted to work or volunteer or do things in my spare time, help with come to terms with sexuality or if I needed a referral to another service like mental health or help with keeping doctor's appointments even, everything, a very broad range of things. It was incredible. It takes readjusting to because it feels like you've got lucky and you don't know whether you deserve it. Just little things like somebody asking, how are you? And from there, adjusting to be able to do things I never thought I'd be able to do, like paying a bill.
Social services went and spoke to my dad. He said it was fine for me to go back and live in the house. I had a white social worker woman. I related more with women. I feel more comfortable. Then I got an old Asian guy. I thought, why have I got an old Asian guy? I have a bias against Black and Asian people. I think they're going to all be homophobic. But he was very good, a very nice man. I was told it was safe for me to go back and live in the house, and the social services would check how I am. I spoke to my sister, and she said, no way, he hasn't changed at all. I don't think they will ever change.
What I learned about sofa surfing is that I don't feel safe being openly gay. My gender and sexuality has always made me feel hugely uncomfortable.
I started to transition. I didn't see a psychiatrist. I started self-medicating, buying hormones off the internet. My breasts started to grow, my hair was long. My hair changed, it grew quicker. What I'm taking now, it changes the hair pattern, the shape of the hair.
We went to see my auntie. I just had surgery. I was sitting there with stitches in my chest. I hadn't been home, we'd just gone straight there. I'd just come out of the theatre a couple of hours earlier. I'm sitting there, and they're talking about me in the room, saying, she this, and she that, and using my birth name. Jennifer, Jennifer, Jennifer. I remember, I hadn't thought it until just now, but I remember just feeling so upset and invisible, and thinking, do you fucking realise I've just gone and had a double mastectomy? I'm sitting here in this pain, and you're blatantly trashing who I am and what I've just done to support that. My auntie said it was disgusting and proceeded to call me Jennifer. My mum joined in and she thought it was more important to preserve my auntie's feelings than mine.
Living as a woman was great, fantastic. I couldn't tell my mum. She's very private and I'm very direct. I don't hide anything from anyone, even though I should. I couldn't tell my mum because of the reaction I got when I told her I was gay. I couldn't tell her I was becoming a girl. when I told her it took her 2 years to accept it. I didn't speak to my mum for 2 years. I'm still self-medicating. There can be side effects, blood clots, stroke, heart attack, liver failure. My doctor's advising me not to take them, but I can't wait. I take pills every day.
It's more wounding when it comes from somewhere close like that. Or when somebody shouts something at you walking down the street. I see my dad a lot more these days. He's really grown as a person. I try and call him every other day and tell him about what's going on. And I love my mum anyway.
I applied to study law. I was told by my teachers to apply to Oxford, but I didn't want to because my dad wanted me to. I applied to the London School of Economics. I went to the interview and it turned into this gay thing. Tell me a time when you overcame a particular issue. When I was gay and homeless, blah, blah, blah. And the time when you had to think outside the box. Because I am gay, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it went very well. But I got a place. I want to go into law. Family law.
I was in that flat for almost a year. I was sad to leave it. Once I cleaned out all my stuff, and it looked the same as when I first moved in, it felt very nostalgic. It was the very first home I'd built. And with moving out before, it had always been on a whim, or not exactly by choice. It was the very first time leaving a place and only having good memories of it, which I hadn't had before. I moved 3 weeks ago with the AKT on a tenancy agreement. I love my new flat. Just got Wi-Fi. I'm really happy. Totally love it.
I still see the person I was born as. When someone says, "That's a man," I get really pissed off and it really affects my confidence. My transition's a struggle. People fear us because we're different.
People are frightened about what to say as they don't want to offend. If somebody is generally interested and wants to understand, then I'm more than happy to answer any questions. If we want people to understand us, we have to be willing to tell people things. I want to try and share some of the experience of trans people.
My first experience with trans people, I said, "She's a tranny." Everybody was shocked. I was told, "No, you don't say that." I had no idea. I'm happy now that I've learned this.
People may be threatened by their own sexuality, and they don't want to look at themselves, how it may apply to them. They may think it's about sex as an activity, but it's got nothing to do with that.
I want people to realise I have a huge history in my life and I have so many goals. I'm fighting, surviving to get to where I need to. I think everyone's life's a constant battle. Everyone's trying to get to the top.
I had to learn how to carry myself, how to behave. It's something you pick up socially, subconsciously, and I wasn't taught that. I don't have that history. It's something I'm still learning. I'm having to go into the men's toilets like, I fucking own this place. You can't just go scurrying in. I'm still learning about gay male culture in terms of how it works, the interactions between people and what they mean. It's completely new to me.
I don't have boyfriends. I have dates. They know because I put down that I'm a trans woman, so they're either into that or not. I don't have a problem disclosing.
I've had instances where somebody has found me attractive and then they found out later that I was trans. Or they were attracted to me before I transitioned and then they can't speak to me anymore. I tread that line in the middle. It does make people uneasy. Their identity is threatened by mine. And sometimes that's great because I've helped people come out. And then other times it's made things very difficult.
In some aspects, you can always read me. But when it comes to dating, I am very hard to read. I've had a lot of problems with dating. People I like don't like me. And people that don't like me, I like. I think, okay, I'm a good-looking guy. Any guy should want to be with me.
There are certain times when I do want to be in a relationship with a man, but It can be very difficult for them if they've never been in a relationship with a transgender woman before. They can never hold my hand in public, never kiss me in public, never show any affection because they're worried about what other people will think about them.
If I meet somebody who understands me generally, I don't think it'll be an issue. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's just something I have to try and see what happens.
If I was with a white guy, my parents would think that reinforced their belief that being with a white person has made that person gay. My parents think that being gay is a white thing. They think it's something unfortunate that irresponsible white men do that unfortunately some black people have picked up. We have to change that.
I want to go to this bar called The Eagle where they don't let women downstairs. I was out the other week for somebody's birthday and there was this really nice guy there called Paul. He's a personal trainer and he was all big and he couldn't leave me alone. He was like, I love little guys. And he didn't know. I've been with a guy since November who already knew. He was my manager at Marks and Spencer's.
When I was living in places before, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be elsewhere. I couldn't cope with people. I couldn't cope with myself. So I'd drink. I've started to learn more and more about my drinking, and clearly I was depressed. And when you're depressed, you don't care about anything.
I've written a book. You'll like it. It's from my own word of mouth, and it'll explain even more about me and what I've gone through. For me, writing my story down, I felt a sense of freedom. When I write, I feel like I am walking in the sand at the beach. I can feel the wind and the breeze. If you asked me to write a poem now, I would write it. At home, I've got a whole folder of poems. They're all about personal experiences. It won't take me long to write a poem.
Where I work, it's really rough. People there don't know anything about this sort of thing. And there's this one lady there, she's hard as nails. She rang me up the other night and said, when you joined the shop, I didn't know what you were about, and I didn't want to know. But I've seen you change so much, and I'm so proud of you. And everything you've been through, I can't tell you how much I admire you. Don't you let anybody hold you back or bring you down. And if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. Son. You'd think that she'd be prejudiced. But being around me and seeing who I am as a person, she was able to get me. It was somebody I didn't think would. She didn't think she would. I felt like I'd been able to somehow open her mind. We're not even that close. Hormonally, I'm 15, 16. I do feel that way. I do feel that young. I've got a life which has made me experience so much. I feel old, but there's this other part of me that's very naive and vulnerable. When I was growing up the first time, I stopped. I was frozen in time. I never became a woman. I didn't get past 14, 15 years of age. I'm trying to make that up now.
When you're a teenager, you tend to form your own identity, but I didn't do that, as I was always out my head, and drinking was my identity. When I started to sober up, it was like going back to being 13 again, and I had to learn about responsibility and who I am, and all that other beautiful soul-searchy stuff. When I was drinking, I didn't have any hobbies or interests or even a personality. But now I'm not drinking, I'm interested in things that I just wasn't before. I take it a day as it comes, because if I look too far ahead, I get a bit, woo!
My outside doesn't match my insides yet. Sometimes I feel as though I am carrying many bodies in me, more than one life, lots of beginnings, former selves, many possible ends. It's a long journey back to yourself, unlearning the kind of loneliness that withers you, learning a smile with no grief in it. You fall, you get up, you fall down again, get pushed, get it punched out of you, get scared, get strong again. Takes a whole lot of strength trying to be who you are, what you were meant for, what you might have been, what you will be, what you've always been, what you almost are. Out here doesn't match what's in there yet. Still, things will only ever get better. I see who I'm becoming, blossoming in the quiet, claiming me as my own creation, grasping who I am tight.
I thought about not doing this. Is it worth doing? Have I got anything to say? And then I thought I have. And also it's flattering that somebody would want to use my story. I was asked and I thought that it might help my whole journey. I hope I do a good job of representing trans people.
I'm looking forward to someone else telling my story through their eyes.
I did think something like this would happen. Maybe I just want to be an actor or a star. I'm hopeful that one day I'll be playing in this. I want to play myself. Why would anybody else be playing me? I could do that.
I never thought I'd be interviewed, unless it were in court.
I don't know what the reaction will be. If it's a good one or a bad one. That's really difficult to answer. This is overwhelming.
I like the idea of there being a big, giant LGBT community where we can share our stories. I like hearing what other people have to say. Historically, people that are LGBT have been quietened, and I think the more we actually hear from them, and not other people speaking on their behalf, we're going to learn. I think it's constantly moving forward in little dribs and drabs, and to keep it going, we need some serious traction.
People strangely say they find my story moving or touching. I don't want people to have certain feelings about my story. There is no intent on my side to make them feel a certain way. As long as they are not thinking, get this attention seeker out of my face.
I want people to know that I'm just a person. They are no different from me. I don't want people to feel intimidated or threatened by what they may perceive as my difference. I don't feel that different. This is what's normal for me. I have to remind myself what it's like for other people. Sometimes I think people don't know how to respond, and so they draw away. I hope people who see this will have an understanding, a connection.
Family means, I don't know if it means anything. It means the people you surround yourself with. It could be your handmade family or your biological family, if they want you.
It means people you can feel safe around.
To me, family means everything.
It means home. It means feeling comfortable. It means feeling you can be yourself and not be judged. It doesn't feel fearful or scary.
Life isn't simple for everyone. Some people are lucky to have parents that are cool. It isn't as easy as everyone thinks. You always need communities. Even if society got to the point where everyone is okay with everyone, we still need communities.
What I would say to my younger self would be to choose the right path for yourself, because no one else can choose it for you.
I would say to not worry too much, to know that things always sort themselves out.
I'd tell her to keep trucking on.
I would say to put yourself first. If I had kids, I would teach them that what they thought counted. I would teach them how to form opinions.
I would teach them right from wrong, to be polite, to be honest, to be open-minded and not to judge or discriminate.
I'd teach them to be open and understanding and to listen, to step back from a situation before jumping in, and to form opinions and have morals.
I teach them to eat healthily, not junk food. I feel safe when I know the future. Hey, I'm not spontaneous as a person. Living at my parents', hearing my dad say things, my heartbeat would be racing.
I feel safe when I'm in the back of a car, looking out the window and I can just relax.
I don't think anyone's ever safe in their life. We may have perfect homes with alarms, but we're not safe. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. We're never safe.
I feel unsafe at work. I have anxiety attacks, panics, issues with sleep, as it feels so unsafe.
I feel least safe when I'm surrounded by strangers.
I felt least safe living at my parents', definitely. Safe means security, knowing your future, feeling settled, having peace of mind, having nothing to worry about.
Safe is something solid, like when someone heavy lays on top of me and I feel completely squashed. That feels safe.
Like now even, just little things, like when you unlock the door and you go in, put the heating on, know you've got food.
What does safe mean to me? Closure. Once my life is closed into a little box and it's got a lock on it and no one can get in, I'm not there yet. No, that's not the best way to explain it. I've got it. What safe means to me, I'll give you 4 different words. Security, acceptance, freedom, and I need a word for E. Security, acceptance, freedom, and equality. That's what safe means to me.